HO Talk Show. I was trying to pace myself in that last one because I knew that we had a great man coming up. And, you know, I'm gonna try to make him blush, Max, because I know this brother. I'm trying to make him blush. A great man, like, you know, when it comes to communication. This brother that we have with us right now is somebody that I don't even know if I've ever told him, but like he's someone who has made me like re-examine myself multiple times and be honest with myself and my style of communication, everything from my business prowess, you know, to how I network with people and work. And actually, I remember him saying he doesn't like the word network. So let me not say that. But how I work with people, how I, you know, extend resource. And so like, and it just blows my mind that we haven't really had him on here for a full segment until today. I'm talking about none other than Joshua Renee, founder and CEO of Spill Team. Joshua, man, thank you for joining us. Happy Sunday afternoon to you.
Yeah, man, I'm grateful. I did blush a little bit. I turned a little red. There's a little red undertone going on. Absolutely, no, I appreciate it, man. I'm humbled. Yeah, thank you.
Yes, thanks for being here.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. So I know you have a lot of things going on, like normal, your initiatives, and we definitely want to get into those. I know in particular, you have a series called Human right now, but it's birthed out of the think tank that is Spill Team. And so go ahead. We have to start right there because when people hear the word Spill Team, it's not a term that you like that I think is in our normal vernacular.
Yeah.
So go ahead and break down, Joshua Renee, like what made you find, or you know, what inspired the foundation of Spill Team and all that it does.
Yeah. I'll do that, and I'll give an example of why even the name Spill Team. You know, I've come from a pretty big just background. I mean, my own personal life that I've lived has not been the most like cookie cutter privileged life you could probably ever imagine. I've seen brokenness a lot inside of like organizations, inside of you know, institutions, inside of systems. But at the end of the day, like those are all made up of people. Right. And so I was looking at why do we continue the cycle of either broken systems or broken processes or brokenness in a sense? Why do we just continue that? And so I realized just my background of like human services, business, all that good stuff, and psychology, that there needed to be, I knew that I would do a better job serving organizations and people from the outside versus the inside. That I would get a little more freedoms to do that. So the example of like Spill Team, what I often say is what that means is like if we were having coffee and there was a waiter or waitress that came in and was filling up your coffee cup, and they got to that like top of that cup, and you're like, whoa. And we were engaged in a conversation, but you looked over and it started like getting crazy. And you're like, whoa, stop for a second. That waiter or waitress passed a point of safety. And suddenly now you gotta do like one of the walk and sip things, or you gotta like, you know, make sure the table's not bumped or you're screwed. But we said, whoa, stop for a second. We would have much rather that person stop at a place that just in case it got bumped or just in case we could not do the walk and sip. And that's a place of safety, right? And that happens also in our thinking, is that we'll get filled up just enough though. Just enough because then we have that just in case. But if she was pouring in money, would he have said, whoa, stop for a second? Suddenly there's no safety margin. Right now, not at all. So she's putting in money and suddenly there's no safety margin. But it's interesting that we can determine, right, what gets filled up. And the difference was that what we saw in the money situation, it was a different level of value. So suddenly when the value is poured into the way that we think, there's suddenly no safety margin. We'll just go anywhere. But when it requires us to change and challenge, we stop. When we have to either change or be challenged to a particular place, we say, whoa, stop for a second. That's good enough. And so Spill Team is designed to do that, man. It lives in that safety margin place and going into like organizations, go in there and work with the people stuff. Although process is important, it's people first, process second. And we live in that space of that, whoa, stop for a second. That like safety margin that keeps us all just from like going to where we actually need to go and be who we need to be. It's this limited thing that's, and you can't see it, but it's this invisible psychological mental wall or ceiling that is there, and we just kind of go in and help break that a little bit. Yeah.
So it's funny that you said what you said too, because when we were just talking to Freddie from Love No Ego, he was talking about how the tools sometimes control us. Like instead of focusing on the nature, like we're focusing on the tools that nature has given us.
Yeah.
When forgetting that's just a tool. You know what I mean? And that's like I hear that in what you're saying. But you also said something. It sounds like one of your pillars or approaches is people first, process second.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
So, like we're all business people here as well. Like we all run households, we all have some complex relationships. So the list goes on and on. So when you have an end result, right? How do you approach it from the frame of mind of people first?
Yeah.
Because when I hear you say people first, like I feel like that's a personality trait that unfortunately too many of us do not have.
Yeah.
Like, to say the golden rule, right? Treat others as you want to be treated kind of thing. It's like, if I know what the end goal is, then I'm sort of keeping my eye on that prize and saying, what do I need to do to get to that money or to get to that end goal? Forgetting about the people in the past, unless I can use them to get to that goal.
Yeah.
And is it possible to be people first in everything?
Yeah. So I have to believe that, right? I have to believe that this room that we're in is nothing without us in it, right? And so going to what you were saying is that it is not forgetting that that you need a process, right? Organizations, people, whatever, we have a system, right? Kids, bedtime, 9 o'clock, blah, 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 blah. But it's preparing the child for the 9 o'clock bedtime, right? It's I gotta go grocery shopping, the process of grocery shopping, but I have to ensure that I'm making healthy choices and thinking through and blah, blah, blah. It's all the people work first to then kind of do your process. So if we look at a process in our life, our relationships or whatever that's hemmed up, if we slow down enough, we can realize that it's not really the process, right? You think of a broken system, right? Even in a community or whatever it may be. Is the system broken or the individuals that created the system?
Right.
And so we'll often look at the thing, the process as because then we don't take ownership for it. Because it's that thing over there. It's that process over there or that system over there. It's the external work over there. And what we were talking about, offline was that what if the external result you want is determined upon the internal work that you need. And so it is so we're talking I want a smooth communication. Cool. Does that just happen? Or we have to kind of start to begin the process of how we think and how we function, how we interact, and also how we absorb, as well. And so I think I have to believe that is this world and all the things that are either be systems or whatever that are broken or at the hands of people. There's a really good example, if I could. And it was I often show when we're doing some talks, and it's regarding 20 in Google, and it was 2015, and I do want to kind of preface, might be a little bit of a trigger warning in some of this, but Google launched their facial recognition software in 2015, and this recognition software recognized bikes as bikes, recognized cars as cars, graduation as graduation. And one of the things that it recognized, and you can look this up, is that it recognized African-American people, Black people as gorillas.
Wow.
And it was, and often when I sit in the room and I talk about this, I use this case study and I ask the room, how did this happen? How did this happen? And because Google, you can look at the reviews and they started, the messaging and the news headings, and they started to talk about the tech and the analytics, and they talked about the code. But didn't someone write that code?
Yeah.
Wasn't there a room full of people that thought this up? And so what's really cool is that it opens up a conversation where people start to talk about there were certain people that weren't in the room that needed to be there, certain demographics that needed to be included, certain questions that needed to be asked. Then when you had all of those individuals in there, the process of rolling out this recognition software might have been a little smoother.
Do you think individuals are just that blind? I'm sorry, Charles. Or naive to not understand that things should be people first? Is that a choice? Is that intentional? Is that unintentional? Are we blinded by something? What that something is? I think
everyone understands it, right? Like, so what we were kind of saying is that for this radio station, I love it's that it leans in the truth and it leans in the honesty and the integrity of the things that need to be said. But that comes from a place of values, right? Prioritized values. It comes from a place of, if we operate outside of these values, we would be joining some sort of system, right? Some sort of easy fluid. I think people are very much aware, but it's around prioritized values. We all value the same things, right? Does any of you have animal dog? and dog. That you have a dog?
Or
Cool.
cat.
Cat, right? I don't have any animals,
Mhm.
but I value that cruelty to animals is a very bad thing. And especially a cat. But it would hit you a little different. And so that particular, like honoring that cat is a little higher on your priority list. For me, it might be number like 18. Yours, it might be number 3 that my cat is taken care of, right? And so the reality is we all value the same thing, but we only act out of like the top 3 to 5 like prioritized values. It's why you see an organization or whatever, maybe you have the beautiful frame on the wall that has like those 5 words and says, we're going to think and act out of these, whatever. So I think it's the prioritization of values. I think we actually all have a lot of very similar values, but some choose that it'll be prioritized and it'll be the ones that convict us to action and thinking. And then some say, I like it, but I have some other ones. So it's going to stay number 28 on my list.
Yeah. And Joshua, just so people know, like for those who may not have heard of you or Spill Team, like you've already worked with some of the biggest brands that we have here in Charlottesville. I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah. It's been a good time. We lay low pretty much because we go in and do some heavy work, but we've been able to work with like government, for-profit, nonprofit. We've been able to work with even like some kind of secret entrepreneurs and venture capitalists and, ensuring that as they solve certain problems, that it is people first. Because if not, man, we join in. But we've been able to do some really just impactful work over the past like decade, and it's been beautiful. It's been humbling. It's been awesome. There's been a lot of lives and thinking changed, which has just been super awesome. Because I think it's the people impact. Because they'll change the system, change the process. But thanks for that. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah. And in saying that, you also relate, at the human level, not just the business level, but the personal level, and so in a minute we're going to get into this new I guess workshop series that you have called Human. Get into that in a second, but kind of staying within the business realm because Max, one of the things that I want to do too is while we have Joshua to kind of show the big scope, right, of how communication skills are so important, in every aspect of our life, because I think as we were just talking about mentoring and what our children may need, it's like you got to remember sometimes the adults aren't communicating well amongst each other. Then you pass that frustration down to the kids. Then we wonder why the kids aren't communicating what they need and what will make them happy. You know what I'm saying? So but like I said, before we dig a little deeper in that though, I want your opinion on something. Me being part of a, I guess you could say, corporation as well, public university, nothing frustrates me more than being in meetings and also
I thought you were gonna end there.
Say training. Well, I mean, I could have, right? I could have, but like being in meetings and or say like team building sessions. I know you do a lot of team building. And it's obviously performative. Can't stand it. Because that takes me back to what I said about it's just not some people's personal makeups. And it's something that Max have said before too. I kind of liken it to diversity training. Like
dun, dun, dun. Right.
It's real. Like if it's not in your heart,
can
you really respect people's differences if it's not in your spirit? Like somebody trained you into that. You know what I mean?
Man, that's a really good perspective.
Really so I want your take on that because I try to be a people person, Joshua. I really do. But then I'm in these meetings where it's obvious that people are constantly backbiting and stepping on each other to get what they want.
It's performative, right? It's what's interesting is so my background, like Stanford D School is design school, talks about design thinking. And that was a thing for a while. Now everybody's saying human-centered design, but let's be open and honest. They were honest with themselves. They were saying design thinking and all this cute sexiness, whatever. What's interesting is that design thinking is a series of tools, right? It's a series of like, do this, and you become this. And as I studied it more and more, I was like, man, something's not right though. Like an empathy map is a tool. Let's give an example, right? And I said, all right, so you're saying that if I take someone and I put them through using an empathy map, they become empathetic? I was like, that's what you're telling me. And I was like, I don't know about that because we can name some political figures or whatever, maybe right now. We can name drop and say, if I put that person through an empathy map, you're telling me that they come out empathetic. What it shows is that it's not the tool. Right. And I was like, and I knew something had to give. I was like, man, I'm not going to go off in this. Something's broken in my own discipline of design thinking. And I was like, and it was the people part. It was like, you know what? It's working on the individual. So when you hand him then the proper tool, they know what to do with it. So if it is bias training, or if it's some sort of DEI or inclusivity training or equitable training, whatever it may be, that if I don't value, going back to what we talked about, if I don't value equality and you hand me a tool or a method or a process of equitable practices, let me know how that'll work out. Right. One of the quick stories I can give you is that I was sitting on a design thinking panel at an academic institution, and they were like, design thinking. And I'm on this panel, Maxine, we love telling the truth, right? So this design thinking squad and panel, and talking to a bunch of students, and we were like, they said design thinking is the thing. I was like, yeah, series of tools, everybody agrees. So you have a tool. I was like, how many of y'all have a car here? And they raised their hand. We have a car. I was like, oh, that's a luxury at college. I have a car. And I said, but when you pull out this stadium, 25 miles an hour. They're like, yep, got it. Speedometer, tool, tell you 25 miles an hour. Just in case that tool doesn't work, there's another tool called speed limit sign, 25 miles an hour, right? So that's another tool. But just in case that tool also doesn't work, there's a police officer there, that is there to design 25 miles an hour. And they're like, yep, it's like these series of tools. And I looked at them, I was like, but yet you still speed. It had nothing to do with the tool and everything to do with, I would have to do with your relationship with time. And your relationship with, structure. Then let's hand you the tool of a vehicle and 25 miles an hour, speed limit sign, authoritative, police officer, whatever it may be. And so it is the people, right? It is. So going back to what you were talking about regarding these sessions or these team buildings or whatever it may be, if it's not a prioritized value, then I went through it and you just hope that I'll remember it later. You hope I'll pick it up or whatever it may be, but not that I am inclined to. And that's why I think some of this work, let it be exclusivity work or inclusivity work or equitable work or diverse work or people work, it has to become a prioritized value. We've worked with people as well. Be open and honest. We've worked with a lot of individuals that have taken on this work, but it didn't remain a priority. It didn't remain like a priority in that value system. So then where does it go? And so there is doing the work to ensure that the thing we're leaning toward, the team building, whatever, is actually stayed a prioritized value. If not, man, it's gone. It's gone. And so then we're in the meeting or in the training to then be in the meeting or the training about the meeting or the training. And then we're doing another meeting or the training about the meeting and the training. And then we're possibly having the meeting after the meeting after the meeting. Says every organization ever. And there's no forward progress.
And you know what it makes me think of? It really, I think a core part to that a lot of times could be short-sightedness. Meaning that again, you have, so I guess what you can teach and what you can, sort of will somebody into is recognizing the value of putting people first. So if you could touch on that at all, because I think that's what happens is it's like I'm not, speaking as, average person, I'm not going to change the way I think unless you can show me how it's going to benefit me. Especially if I'm, and this is where we're getting a little deeper, within our community. Especially if I feel like I've been done dirty in the past, and you gonna sit there and tell me to think about somebody else first, or think about care how they feel. So how do you portray the value, instead of being short-sighted on sort of the microwave way of thinking with the value of people and how that really does benefit.
I often, it reminds me of this. It's very weird. I was sitting on another panel. We were sitting on somewhere, but I was sitting somewhere, and we were talking about oppression. And I'm always probably gonna say the thing that upsets people at this point. I've realized that and I've accepted that. And my own personal growth is being okay with not being understood. But I was on this panel and we were talking about oppression. And it was during a lot of times where the world was really, going through it outwardly and externally. And I said, the oppressed also have a job to do, and it was tough. You should have heard the room. What are you talking about? The oppressed are the victims, and the oppressed have been oppressed. And there's a hurt, man, and there's a mistrust, and there's a lot going on in an individual that has been oppressed. A lot going on, and so someone decided to entertain my statement, and they were like, "What do you mean? What are you talking about? And what's the role then? Since you're saying the oppressed have a job to do in all of this as well." And I said, just don't do it to someone else. If by any chance your trust has been violated, live a life in such a way where you don't violate someone else's. If by any chance you have been manipulated and misguided and lied to, then do your best to live a life in such a way where you don't do that to someone else. And that was the only responsibility I'd ask for the oppressed, those that have been oppressed by a system or by an individual. The only responsibility I asked was that you don't do it to someone else. And I wasn't asking to change the system or change the world, but just change like yours, the one that you can influence and touch. Yeah. Right. And so I do think that the work has to at least start with, I understand that's how other people have lived toward me, but I won't live that way.
And you know, the crazy thing about that is that a lot of times, because I've heard it, like we've had conversations with people on the totally other end of the systematic and racial spectrum than we are. And the oppressor's number one fear is that even though, from my experience, the majority of the oppressed has no intent of like striking back, like they're just focused on taking care of themselves and being treated fairly. Yeah. But number one fear of the oppressor a lot of times is the fact of, if I don't continue to oppress you, then you will automatically oppress me.
Sure. It is. You know what I mean? And it becomes this thing where in order for me to be well, then you have to do this for me. It reminds me of like the term psychological safety. And I hear that a lot. And I'm like, sometimes I just want to like judo chop people in the neck when I hear it. But what I've heard and I've seen, and I've seen this often, man, this is crazy, from Harvard Business to whatever. And it says that you are responsible for creating a place of psychological safety for me. And that's what it says. Ultimately, it says it for leaders and organizations and all this stuff. You're responsible for creating a place of psychological safety for me. What if, so let's just go into an example of you start to ask questions, right? And it just isn't a really good fluid thing. But what if I'm responsible for creating a place of psychological safety for me?
Right.
What if I'm responsible for that? So then I can turn questions or being questioned into questions, right? And I can actually start to process and function in this world a little bit differently. And so going back to your point, Charles, what you're saying is that like, there's this thing around you do it for me. Like you do it to make it easier for me, and you do it for me, and you create the place psychological safety for me. But what that's communicating often is, I need you to put in the work that I may, yes, exactly, that I may not put in myself, right? That I may not put in that work myself. So if I am, like, it's communication, it's whatever it may be. It's like, you create the stage that's easier for me. I was like, or I create the stage and you create the stage for you, and we bring these stages together. But it's often this tit for tat development thing. Yeah.
Well, you know, something that didn't age well, or maybe it did age well, depending on your perspective, is something that I heard Will Smith say a while ago. Like this was a few years ago, like when sort of people were more in the beginning of like questioning he and Jada. I gotta go here. I'm sorry, I gotta go here. but like Will had a TikTok video or something like where he said they made the choice to make themselves happy instead of depending on the other one to make them happy. Sure. So they said, we separate, do whatever we got to do. And when you're complete, when you're fully happy, then we can come together. But we can't be together expecting the other one to make us happy with ourselves. Right. Yeah. And the reason I say that, like, for good or bad, because, you know, as much as people hate, like, they still together in some form or fashion. Sure. So whatever makes them happy is making them happy to where it's working out, whatever that looks like. Sure. You know what I mean? So that's why I think that statement still rings true. Of being a complete person. But I know Max had something, but I want to touch on the psychology of what you said. Yeah. Like, and you may know, you may not, but the psychology of the mindset of like when people say, well, if you witness abuse as a child, you tend to automatically be an abuser, or you will accept abuse. I've heard people say it about like growing up around drinking or smoking. Sure. It's like if you're around it as you grow up, it's kind of, instead of you being like, that's bad, shouldn't do it. Yeah. Somehow subconsciously in the gray matter or something, like we sort of automatically go into that lifestyle. Just,
becomes an easier option to select it.
Yes, I'm curious on the psychology behind like sort of those generational curses.
Yeah. I think man, I'm so glad you said that.
Are we selecting?
So that's a great question. There's a thing we do. It's called the menu made for you, and it's this example of, if I handed you a menu of like 5 different options, and I was like, order whatever you want off this menu, did you really ever get a choice? And that's a real question. And in this room, they usually ask this too. Some people think I'm like, it's like a trick question, but the reality is that you did get a choice, but off of the limited structure that I selected for you. And so if you grew up in an environment, I do believe in free will. I believe we all have it. But I do believe we can put people in positions where the choices become harder to make. That menu, that situation, it wasn't order whatever you want. It was whatever you want off of what I have selected.
Right,
and so these options might have been what I was raised around or grew up around. That to choose and to buck this menu would mean I start to break, generational curses and situations. Because generational curses are really learned behavior. That's really what that is, right? It's saying it's the learned behavior from generation to generation to generation. We might have set each other up in a really put them downhill. I think we got free will. We can definitely choose to not order off that menu, but it's extremely hard when the menu is all you've ever been sown, and that
Yeah,
it's extremely hard.
I mean, unless you're my wife and you just say, "Can you make it like this? Don't put this on it," and all that. I'd be like, "Can we order off the menu?"
Right. It's just easier. It is, but you know what, Max? That's exactly what that's easier. It's easier just to order off the menu that's made for you, but to say no, I don't want anything you presented to me. And I'd like to mix and match it. And then you have, we're talking generations. Someone's going to look at you, a parent, an aunt or whatever, and look at you and say, that's never been done before in our lineage or in our legacy. You just tweaking things and freaking it up and twisting it up has never been done. Yeah. You're up, for some, that's a whole new thing, right?
Yeah, thank you.
So I just want to say, Josh, I'm with you. You speak in my language with everything that you've said here, but I realize that there's some people that are listening who are calling it bogus, right?
Sure.
And we live in a society where I feel like people, it's not an and thing. It's people or it's processes. Pick one.
Yes.
Especially when we're dealing with so many problems, social ills in the world. So yeah, what's your response to that?
I think it is holistic thinking is a choice and an ability, right? It's choosing to look at multiple perspectives and to hold it and say that'll influence your value. So I think about a baseball game or a football game, and we're all sitting at different stands, right? And then we get together and talk about the game later. And I'm like, man, so I was behind Duggar's mound. You're like, I was in the nosebleeds and I was on the opposite team. And we get together and start talking about it. You're going to hear completely different sides of the game. You're going to hear completely different sides. And I'm going to hear a game experience from you that was nothing like I experienced whatsoever. I was behind the Duggar's mound. So it's all I see and it's all I know. And you're bringing a perspective of the game from the nosebleeds. The problem is, instead of naturally saying all of these stories help communicate the game, because it's different than my experience, I automatically put it in a bucket of it's wrong. Because it wasn't my experience. It wasn't what I lived through. It wasn't what I typically have known. It wasn't what I touched or what I felt or whatever it may be. But the reality is, just like the coin that we hold in our hand that has one side, it has another side, but it's just not the one that we see. And so the goal isn't this is where I tell people that understanding is an agreement, and it doesn't have to be. I can understand this game we all went to from all these different perspectives that really just inform my story. And so now my story doesn't become just about what I see, even though I'm the one telling it. I'm like, but I talked to two other people and they said they saw something really different about that. So now it creates a holistic story, but I have to care about that.
You have to care.
I have to care enough to be able to say. And so holistic, there's a psychologist that says the best thinkers have the ability to embrace paradox. Now, she said the ability to, not the intention to. So abilities, right? Abilities are skills. They are developed. They are you can prove an ability. You can actually prove, but have the ability to embrace paradox, hold two opposing thoughts at one time. And the reason why that becomes the best thinker, because I think even those people that are listening, you talked to about Maxine, they would probably all agree that the brain is a muscle. Everyone would agree to that. It's a muscle like any other muscle, your bicep, tricep, your tibia, whatever, I don't know. But the reality is, which means we can take it to the gym. So how do you take this muscle to the gym? You start to put it in situations to exercise abilities that it hasn't in a long time. That's why most of the time when people are done workshopping with us, they're brain fatigue, because I tell them, we took the brain to the gym. And so by hearing and entertaining this other side of the baseball game, the fact that I'm taking my brain to the gym and I'm hearing and I'm not initially bucking it and I'm listening to it. I may not, it's practice, right? When we go to the gym, it's practice over and over again. But what I'm doing is I'm putting my brain in situations to be exercised in ways that it isn't typically. And then suddenly it becomes easier. And I don't buck the opposing opinion so much. I don't feel that when people are questioning me that I'm being questioned, that it's actual questions of curiosity, because I'm starting to get my brain used to questions. When I'm presented with change and challenge, I'm suddenly not like tensed up and anxiety, because I'm starting to put myself in positions to think about change and challenge a little more. Take the thing to the gym. Take it to the gym, because then it doesn't have to be an either or. It's a all. It's an all of it. Again, and the fact that I understand your perspective of the baseball game doesn't mean I have to agree with it. But I took my brain to the gym enough to understand it.
Yeah, man. Thank you. We are joined by Joshua Renee of the Spill Team. And Joshua, how about this? How about we take a quick break?
Yeah.
And then we come back, we could dive head first into your human series.
Oh, cool. Absolutely.
On because you are a design consultancy, and you can tell the folks what is a human-centered design, through that. So cool. Tell a friend. We are gonna be right back with none other than Joshua Renee. IMHO Talk Show. To the Izzo Talk Show, Sir Charles, Miss Max. And we are back like we never left, because we are still here in the booth with none other than Joshua Renee of Spill Team. And Joshua, this, so far has been as expected. You are per advertised.
Some would say you're consistent.
But no, and I hope listeners, and please continue to chime in online, if you will, whether you're listening or viewing, because hopefully, like, you're getting a message from from the show today. A lot of it is just us, looking. I think what we've heard, Max, looking internally, being content there, being complete there, and then being able to communicate, clearly, right? And like, as to what the need is. Putting people first. I think everybody we've talked to today is about putting people first, people before the process, as Joshua says. And Joshua, you getting some shout outs online too. You gotta love Joshua Renee and Spill Team. That's what one viewer said.
Oh, that's cool.
Yes, indeed.
That's cool.
So thank y'all.
I love you too. I love you too.
So let's go ahead and jump into your current initiative. Called Simply Human. Break that down. I mean, it sounds simplistic. But what's the meaning behind human?
What I tell people first off with like human-centered design, a little bit of what that is, and it's a different way to think and work. And so we inject this different way to think and work into problem solving. Same problems have existed, man. We've done so many different, we've done like marketing strategies and business strategies and people development, all this other stuff. They've never gone away. But human-centered design is a different way to think and work about solving that problem. And so I do let people know this people first, process second thing could very well be this idea of thinking less of yourself, right? But what I say is human-centered design is not thinking less of yourself. It's thinking about others more. So it's okay. You don't have to like belittle your, it's none of that. It's literally, you're staying where you are, but you are thinking about others more than yourself, right? This idea of, again, going back to that, Maxine, is like this choosing thing. It's like, no, I don't have to like less to think more. So what we've experienced on the Spill Team side with a lot of the work and within organizations is, there's just something about leadership. And I've had a lot of conversations with leaders. I mean, I've had one-on-one conversations, closed doors, in the car, like cell phone, late at night, with a lot of leaders that run organizations and spearhead teams and change. And man, it is lonely for them. It is super, super lonely. And I think why it is, I think about certain leaders that have redefined a little bit of our culture, if I could. I think about a Henry Ford who looks at a bunch of horses and says, let's make a car, right? I think about, NASA, who's like, that big, cool, yellow, white thing in the sky. Let's go ahead and put another human on that planet for the first time. I think about people like Martin Luther King, who woke up and said, I think I'll risk my family's life for these values today. Love him or hate him, Elon Musk, Kanye West changed the face of music. Elon Musk changed the face of what transportation and technology will forever look like. But here's the thing.
And can I ask something?
Yeah, please. Like, you got someone to add to the roster of like,
I do actually.
Yeah, please.
Nikola Tesla.
Yeah.
Like, who the Tesla's named after.
Absolutely.
Like, if I'm not mistaken, he was the first person to talk about wireless technology.
Yeah.
Now think how crazy you had to be looked at.
Yeah.
For you to be like, I'm going to communicate with no strings attached. I'm going to send things like like just through the ether.
That's it.
Can you imagine how he was?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So imagine his community, and you can call community in 2023. Imagine the team you lead, the city you live in, the neighbors you have, Nikola Tesla, the community he has, the Henry Fords, the community that surrounded Martin Luther King. Of course, eventually people got on board, but imagine stating that value. You had to be looked at like you were crazy.
Yeah.
And so what I
didn't mean to cut you off.
No, dude. I mean, I'm adding to the list. I'm adding to my roster. Email, by the way, email us or whatever. Maybe if you got any other ones to add to the list,
go put it in the chat
and drop it in the chat. But the reality is, these are these leaders, and they're leading new thought, right? They're leading new vision, and often because they're the individuals with the forethought that groups of people, communities say you must be good to go. Because leaders, I mean, you have a Barack Obama, right? To be able to to be able to grow up and look. I think I read someone saying that he had to have a little bit of ego, and you had to have a little bit of ego because you have to be able to, at whatever teen years old, to look your world in the face and say, "Yeah, I'll be president." Yeah. I'll be president of the United. I will take the highest position of the United States of America. Right. And
of the world, right?
Of the world, right? Literally. And so my thought around the responsibility of that type of thinker, the things that they're weighted with. And so me and my team, we looked at ourselves and we asked ourselves, and we saw this within organizations as well, is where do leaders get to go? Where do they get to go where they're not having to prove their point, right? Where they're not having to show up again for their team all the time, right? Because the team needs this from them. Yeah, to be human. There you go. Where do they get to go? And so we created Human, which is a series of just leadership events. And it's a place for these leaders to come and to show up and say, man, I don't have to prove myself here. I don't have to jump through a bunch of hurdles and hoops here. I don't have to. There's not an expectation of my team that's here. And so we're creating 4 different events. One is around helping leaders with authentic connections, because we all know in the communities we live in, put the song and dance and put the mask on and connect that particular way. So there's human connections. There's going to be human strategy leadership events where leaders actually get the right tools that they need and deserve. There's going to be a series of dinners, which is ideas at night. These are the leaders have these ideas at night and afraid to walk in Monday morning at 9:00 with them, because of all the meetings that they'll have to have around it, Charles. But the reality is that idea literally might change the game.
Yeah.
But and then the last one is around human conversations, where there's real life conversations and talks and panels that where these leaders get to go and just where things aren't asked of them.
So what makes a person eligible to attend something like this?
Yeah.
I mean, what how are you defining leader here?
That's a good question. So we have kind of a bit of a criteria where that this responsibility that these individuals have to hold around like decision making, direction setting, developing like people, process, and ops. Culture, change management, because everyone, will say that they're a leader, but we all have leadership abilities and potentials. But I'm looking for the leader that's weary. I'm looking for the leader that has like carried this for a long time by themselves. And we're looking for that person. So they kind of, there are some responsibilities that they are to have in their role in organization that kind of qualify them a little bit.
And that can be nonprofit or for-profit?
Absolutely. Nonprofit, for-profit, all are welcome. They can definitely like email, message, DM, we'll get them a registration. But we are wanting leaders to be able to come in and be able to say like, man, this place was made for me. Like it was a place that is not asking me of anything.
Yeah. And I'm curious, have you seen the need to partner with other organizations in order to maybe access those who really need this? Like, for some reason, CNE came to mind.
Yeah.
Right. Center for Nonprofit Excellence. And I know they have like a Leaders of Color collective. Yeah. So I'm curious if any of your marketing reaches out through other organizations.
Yeah, it's a great question. So a couple of organizations have reached out and wanted to be a part. Beautiful thing is we've been able to host this in partnership with the Vault. And I believe that the development of people also happens in the development of the space that they get to be in. And so the Vault has created just a beautiful environment for us to be able to actually ask leaders to come into the space with no expectation. It's just super beautiful. But we have organizations reach out to us. But to be honest, we like we were talking offline, man, we stand true to some of our values, and that organization and their intentions around wanting to partner have to be pure. And it has to be able to serve, because the reason why we're creating this space for leaders is because I've asked leaders before, like, how was that conference or that summit? And I've had leaders come back and it's like, about that.
Yeah.
And nothing. And I was like, yeah, let's create a space for you. And so we want to make sure that it isn't just intention and execution are two different things. So if there is an organization that wants to partner with us, what we're really going to dive into is the execution that truly serve these leaders well. Because these leaders are trusting us with themselves. They're trusting that, and we're going to protect that. And we're going to,
I think that this type of project is a game changer, for real. Like I've heard conversations about people feeling like there's either a dearth in leadership or just leery of the existing leadership. Not locally, I don't mean that, but definitely nationally. And so for the Charlottesville community or surround whoever is plan to attend the event, to have access to something like this that can help build them as a leader, to me is a game changer for what they can then bring to the people that
that's it,
here.
right? Like I think if impact people that impact people that impact people, and this is the idea is that certain team members are like they get to go to certain things all the time, but my biggest question is like, where does this leader get to go? Where do they get to actually go where they are truly filled up? Because if I'm in a room and I have this expectation that's still required of me because I see like certain team members or whatever it may be, it's still hard, right? It's hard to be poured into. And so that is our hope, that we can get these leaders together and serve them from, human connections, human strategy, human conversation, and human ideas where they can vision vulnerably, that they then take that back, right? And they go back to the individuals that they're responsible to impact and go do that. But it's hard to be, to put out a fire and prevent the fire at the same time.
And, I would argue to say that
I love when you argue, Max.
At the end of the day, at least for me, right?
I love it.
Like being appreciated goes so much further than I'm not gonna say bonus, but like just being appreciated and knowing that your work is valued and feeling like you have a place in whatever it is that you're participating in and being poured into by whoever the leader is goes so much further with me and maybe even other individuals as well. It's something that encourages you to show up on time, work your hardest, and all those other things that come along with that,
what's funny is I've the opposite side of this. Yeah, I mean, you're 100%. The opposite side of this, when I've talked to certain leaders even about this, I've watched leaders in front of me as I'm talking to them about the human events. I watched them get anxious. It's sitting in front of me. Like I watched them because there's data around leaders psychologically, mental health. I mean, there's a lot like that leader carries. There's a lot. I mean, we named a few that they carry. And a leader is behavior, right? That choosing to go and create the thing or do the thing or say the thing that no one else is saying. There's a lot they carry when it comes to visioning a thing or no one else sees. And I've talked to a couple leaders and I've watched them like in front of me start to like sweat and get anxious and get concerned with just thinking about having a space that like fuels them and pours into them. So proved in the pudding, but
so lastly, as we're coming to the end and wrap up, I'm curious if you've ever or if you would consider working with youth in the work that you do. And I say that on the heels of Max, did you know that the word authentic is the Webster Dictionary's word of the year? And so folks are saying that that's because of the rise in AI, artificial intelligence, and how so that made people use the word authentic or looking for the authenticity of stuff more so, right? So and
how to leverage your authenticity as well.
Important.
It isn't like this just cool thing you like, it's like where parents tell their kids like just be authentic. There's a way to actually do it and build it. Yeah.
So that's sort of how I wanted to close with you, like with if you ever have or are interested in working with the youth and what would be your recommendation when it comes to us figuring out why, like what's troubling our youth, when it comes to them being able to express themselves in a healthy way.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to. I've been able to speak at like some teen summits and stuff like that as well. Would love to be able to pour into who we're going to leave this world to when we're done. Absolutely. Right. Like, and that's the hope, right? Is that we are creating bridges for individuals to be able to walk across that when we're done. But one of my biggest things that I've talked about, especially with authenticity, is first you have to deal with the comparison thing. Like first, I mean, that's always going to show up. But if the only reason why we compare is because we begin to see more value in something and less value in the other thing. And even from a tangible spot, right? Influencer, whatever it may be, that person had more attention, right? So I'm going to go back to like what Max and I were talking about with values is that I recommend for every individual, every youth, every teenager that's out there to, and it will evolve and change, but I think annually you should create a value system. Annually, which is around your causes, your actions, and your impacts. The things that wake you up at night, the things you go do, and what's impacted by doing those things. And it's a bit of a compass in helping every teenager, every youth actually create their own kind of value compass. And being able to hold into it. And then I think when it comes to parents or teachers, instead of like trying to you should just be a great impact in this world. Like, why would you ever put that pressure on a 12 or 13-year-old? So then when you get to actually do is instead of just be authentic, right? It's like, hey, pull out your values real quick. Let's talk about, I saw you in that incident and that one right there was compromised. Let's talk about that. Like, you got to get specific, right? This idea of like change the world and be your best self and all these other like fluffy bumpers.
I still use that line, be your best self. Hold on.
But hold on back. What I would do with that is, and I know you'd be able to do it, I would say, how do you do that? And you would begin to break it down. I am my best self by doing this, living this way, acting this way, by these causes, actions, and impacts. So you'd be able to give people the ingredients. And so what I want is let's give teenagers a branded tagline. Let's absolutely do it. But I want to equip individuals with how. Equip them with how, and then that helps equip with how we guide them also specifically, right? With some instruction, right? This idea of it sets them up for failure, man. If we're saying you should go that way, and like what way? It's like, let's get this compass that guides you. It guides the way you think, it guides the way you feel, and it guides the way you act and how you show up in the world. And if we ever go off track, similar to the little ridges on the side of the street that go that thing, it pulls you right back on. So we want that compass will do that for those.
Instruction.
Some people call that the Holy Spirit.
There you go.
Instruction is important, and you know they have church, but let me get my comment in.
And you can close.
But instruction is important, right? And I always, Charles may recognize this, but I always make sure that when we start telling people what they should do, and I make sure that we pause to be able to tell them how to. You can't just be spewing out stuff and not give them any practical way to accomplish that. But we are out of time. This is a great conversation. I'm sorry it's getting cut short a little bit, but you'll be back. You'll be back. How do people get in touch with you?
Yeah, so you can email me, Joshua@SpillTeem, and that's team with 2 E's. So it's SPILLTEEM.com. Email me, Joshua@SpillTeem, and we can chat.
All right.
Yeah.
IMHO Talk Show.